what you lack in self-generation, your business, friendship, and your overall life structure will provide for you, which isn't a good thing if you're not conscious of it. So to start, every business, every friendship, every part of your life has a function. Everything has a function and a purpose. And since we're all founders here, we're going to talk about your business and your brand specifically. So your business, the function of your business, the core function of your business is to produce cash flow. If your business is not producing cash, or if you are taking efforts that don't align with cash generation, it's not a business. And I like to define your brand as a separate entity, but a congruent entity to your business. And the main reason why is because your brand's main focus, its main impact is, or function is impact through resonance. So when you invest in a brand, not just the reputation your company has, but an actual investment into the brand and relationships that a brand naturally generates, its function is impact through resonance. And if you look back in my videos, you'll see more about that. But for today, the function of your business is cash flow, and the function of your brand is impact through resonance. So the reason why this is important to clarify and to really hone into is because it's very easy to lose sight of its core function. And it's so simple, but we're not simple. Like us as founders, as spiritual women, it's not always simple. In general, humanity is not simple. So when we build things and we're not cognizant or conscious of the energy and the stance that we begin and end things with, we can deviate from something's core function. Now, here's a truth that is true for everything. Your business takes form according to the attention you give it, conscious or not. And the reason why I say conscious or not is because a lot of the problems that we have in life and business comes from how much of ourselves is not seen by us, named by us, or revered by us. So when I say your business takes form according to the intention that you give it, what I'm saying is that your business becomes what it requires of you, or what you require of it. And so on the surface, it's easy to say, like, yeah, I'm making this business to make money, or I have a vision and a purpose to change the world in this way. And that sounds good in the conscious mind, but subconsciously, why do you have what you have? Why are you creating what you're creating? You know what I mean? Everything takes shape according to what you desire for it to produce. And so this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because if you aren't seeing yourself or knowing yourself, then you'll assume the easiest or the most logical reason, which is to make money or to have that kind of impact that you want. But when you take a look deeper, you'll begin to recognize that you may be making the money, but the money may not be the end goal. The end goal really may just be for you to be chosen, or proof that you can do it. Let me give you an example. I have noticed for a lot of women, I think it's just the way that we've been socialized, that we curate and create successes, businesses, friendships, communities to validate us in a way that we may not have been validated. And I see this a lot in just regular friendships on a general level. How many times have you befriended somebody and they kind of set things up so that you can orbit them? Or how many times have you been to a church and everybody in the audience is so kind of kiss-assy and it's kind of cult-like? There's nothing wrong with a friendship and there's nothing wrong with church. But when you dig deeper, the way that we curate and we create these spaces, these connections, these bonds, you see that Jesus is not the center of that, or connection is not the center of that. The purpose or the function has now become filling my need to feel desired or worshipped or needed, or even with people pleasers. I mean, I was a people pleaser for a long time, and I know after healing that, for me, my helpfulness was because I wanted to feel needed, because I couldn't feel that within myself. So when you take a look at your business and your brand, it's so easy. It's not easy, but so many women have created incredible things for reasons, conscious reasons that conflict with their subconscious desires or gaps in their needs. It's very admirable and it's super impressive to build, let's say, a skincare brand that has broken records, that has influenced trends and has connected you with celebrities and all those things. But if the subconscious need is for you to prove to yourself that you are not a nobody, that is the ceiling of your business. That's it. And the reason why that's a problem for you specifically, because I know that you're here today because you have been reawakened to this vision that God has given you from the very beginning. Before the accolades, before the high cash months, before the expansion into a new warehouse, before you even registered your company name, that vision is requiring something of you more than what you've been able to give up until now. And the reason it exists in conflict with that is because these things are very binary in a lot of ways. What you desire out of a thing, it will produce. And they can't conflict with each other. So if your desire is for what you've built to affirm something that you lack the ability to affirm within yourself, that becomes its core function. The cash flow for your business, although that is the actual function of your business, that just becomes an aid in affirming what you feel like you can't generate within yourself. If you created this community, this app, this community or whatever, and it's really fulfilling that desire for you to feel important, or like you're doing something with your life, or that you actually can do something, that is its function. A lot of times, it's easy to look past gaps in congruence because we're such a one-dimensional society. Like, if we see that you have the skill of money generation, if you have the skill of sales, that nothing else really ever matters. We don't really look at the gaps. And I see it so often in the exit culture that we have for product-based companies already. If you're giving your investors their money, nothing else really matters. It doesn't really matter the integrity of how you treat your workers, or how you're sourcing your things, or how you're treating the environment. That's a conversation for another day, but it doesn't really matter. And so these things kind of drop through the cracks. And I would say it's really not common for people to have their standard be alignment and excellence either. So you can skirt by pretty well you can skirt by pretty okay-ish, I would say, while allowing the entity you created, your business and your brand, or your friendships, whatever it is, to feed you in a way that is not congruent with your the fullness of the vision that God gave you. However, I just want to remind you, and also just say that the standard here is excellence, and the standard here is alignment. That is the floor. For a lot of people, that's just a distant future fantasy that they don't aspire to. But for us, the standard, this floor, is alignment and it's excellence. So when you get to a point where you recognize and you know that it's time to not tear everything down, but realign it all, because you know that this business is just phase one. You know that what you've built already is barely the beginning. You know that this transcends beyond you. You know that this is just the beginning of your matriarchal positioning in your bloodline. You know that this is literally the floor of your empire. And you know that you can't build anything beyond that in accordance to what you've been shown until you maintain or you begin this process of alignment. Once you get to that point, it's just the standards are different. The stakes are different. It's completely different. It really is. So, I mean, now that you've recognized, now that you recognize this is really this is the beginning of realignment. You have to understand and know yourself enough to know where your energy is giving input and what is getting output. You have to understand and you have to know with certainty and clarity what you're giving form to and its function. And once you can identify what the function of a thing is, specifically in this video, your business, and of course your real life and your relationships, you're going to have to reform it. And one thing that I like to pride myself on is an architect of chaos. It sounds kind of bad, but everything created once existed in chaos or without form. Chaos is mother. It is the ground of all potential. It is the womb of creation. To re-architect what you've built requires strong vision on your end. And so it's calling you to become self-generative. The best way I can put it is to become self-generative. When you've built something that is inadvertently feeding a wound or a place where you haven't fully embodied, that's you existing in a place of lack. But everything that you need and everything that you need to become is already is inside of you. And honestly, what I'm getting at is to become whole. You must become whole. I always say you can only create what you are, and you can only create from what you are. And if you lack the integration, or you exist in a fragmented version of self, where maybe you have some shadows because the shame has kept you from fully accepting her, whoever she is. Or maybe you just haven't found a way to know that despite it all, you are who you are. You'll be reflecting parts of the vision, but you'll never have the full picture. And so where your attention goes, energy flows, and that's where creation happens. If everything's kind of scattered around, your attention is kind of scattered everywhere. And so when you look at what you've built, it will never be complete or in integrity. And so when I say become whole, I don't mean it in like a passive way. I mean in a way where there is nothing that defines you on this earth. What I mean is that you are the one who defines you. What I mean is that you see yourself as a reflection of the creator, and therefore you create. And so when it comes to even your self-esteem, like, what are things that you use in your life to prove to yourself that you are beautiful? What have you generated in your reality to affirm to you that you're important? If all those things were taken away tomorrow, who would you be? And if you can't say that I am who I am, with or without, if you can't stand in that gap of the reality outside of you not mirroring what is already true within you, and if your sense of self collapses when something is taken away or something is exposed, then everything you create the function will override your desire to create in alignment with God. You'll begin to create things that soothes or fills or proves or justifies what you lack within. Alignment requires congruence. And I know I use the word alignment a lot, so I'm going to touch on that again. Alignment is congruence. It's congruence. Alignment is 4 plus 4 equals 8. That's what it is. It's when things are harmonious, when they make sense, and when there is agreement between the two factors. So what you desire has to align with the vision. And the vision is freedom. The vision is expanse. The vision is not lack, that's for sure. But if your desiring is to fill lack because you can't generate the self-esteem to maintain this vision, then in a lot of ways you desire lack. And it's kind of weird because, like, if I desire to not have the self-esteem, why would that to have like lower self-esteem, why would that equate lack? But remember, the universe speaks through vibration. If you exist and you put out things and create things to fulfill something that you do not have with this physical reality, you are really just creating proof of the existence of lack, because nothing can fulfill you except for your awareness of the truth that you are, that I am. So I always advocate for my clients, not advocate, but it's non-negotiable. Like, once you work with me and I guide you through this process of realignment and going through your company, your brand, your teams, your relationships, everything, and we go piece by piece by piece, every minuscule piece, to make sure that the company that you're building, the person that you are, and the life that you are living are all congruent, and they all are aligning with the vision that God has given you from the beginning. The first thing that we always touch on is becoming self-generative, because I do not want any of my clients to build something on this earth that defines them. As the creator, you give definition to a thing. It's so common in our reality where we use things to give us meaning and definition, but that is not the arc of the creator. That is not the definition of a creator. I mean, think of our creator, God. Like, he does not question himself and create, because then who would we be? It is because he is who he is, or she is who she is, that we are, because we are a reflection of him. The same thing is for your creations. Your creations reflect who you are. And if who you are is in fragments or it doesn't exist, what can you create? It's almost like looking in a mirror that doesn't reflect. There's no reflection anymore. You have to recognize that everything that you touch, the degrees that you have, the accolades that you receive, the status that you obtain, the money that you make, they are all reflections. They all speak and testify to who you are. So becoming self-generative and being able, despite what things look like, despite where you are, despite what point of the journey that you are in, when you can stand and just say, I am that I am, that changes everything. That makes you in position to fully materialize what God is trying to birth through you. The same way that he or she, I like to call her she now, but the same way that she has done for us on this earth is the same thing that we're supposed to do as well. It's a mirroring effect, and it's a feedback loop. When you create from fragments, you're only going to get a fragmented vision. And a fragmented vision looks like a business that might be successful, but its impact only exists within the confinements of affirming your low self-worth or justifying your reason to have a seat at the table that you may want, or making you feel important or making you feel like you deserve something. I don't know. That's what a fragmented vision looks like. Because a vision that is whole, a vision that is actualized when it's whole, looks like what the intention is, which is impact for us, which is your business producing cash flow and your brand producing impact. The same principle follows for money too. How you spend your money reflects who you are. If you don't exist in the state of wholeness, then you're going to spend your money to make you whole instead of being whole and spending your money. And so think about this how when it comes to your impact, because I work with future world changers, industry disruptors, people who are ahead of their time, currently making the blueprints and trailblazing the way for this new world that we are architecting right now. Imagine doing all of that by spending your money to make you whole. You see how that conflicts with making the change that you actually want? And the thing is, I don't want to make it like a binary. It's not as if you can't succeed in it all or have that kind of impact. But remember, this is not just like a dream that we have. This is a commission that we were given. You see it in your mind. You know, you can taste exactly what it is that you're supposed to put on this earth. But to that degree, to that intensity, that will never come here if you are using your resources and architecting a reality that affirms something that you already are, because you can't hold that within yourself. So if you take nothing from this video, I just want you to remember, you can only create what you are. Who are you? Is she self-generative? Can she stand on her own? If there's nothing in this world, if it was just space, who would you be? Does your external reality dictate who you are, or are you who you are and you create? Or does the creation dictate the creator? Because at that point, your creation's creating you. You're just, I don't even know what that would be equivalent of. You're just a reactor. You're like an animal, basically. You live in a level of consciousness that is not free, that is not sovereign. And we are sovereign beings. And that is the standard for alignment and excellence, especially when it comes to working with me. So if you are interested, or you feel, let me rephrase. If you're ready to, or have been walking out the process of realigning your life, brand, and relationships to mirror the vision you were initially given, I am inviting you to apply to the Aligned Partnership. This is my, at minimum, 3-month container where I walk with you hand in hand as a co-creator, co-visionary, and co-architect of this realignment process. I created it specifically because I know that there are so many founders, spiritual women founders, who are kind of in this journey alone. You know, like it's not a small thing to just say, I am now real. I'm going to make changes that contradict industry standards. I'm going to take risks and I'm going to create something that has never been done before. That takes a lot of guts and it takes a lot of vision. And so I understood that so many founders, they're standing alone, and not just alone, but they lack the mirroring that's necessary for them. Not necessary, but they lack the mirroring that they need to really fuel this transition. And so that's where I came in. That's where I come in. I wanted to create a space where first and foremost, mirror. I wanted to be a mirror to them so that they can have somebody to reflect back on them the truth. I wanted to hear their vision and hold it and reflect it back onto them with truth and clarity and new perspectives. I wanted to take my strategy experience and my brand strategy mind and help them make this transition as seamless as possible. And also, just be someone who could hold them through the natural bumpy roads that may come up in relationships with investors, with their team, etc., etc. So essentially, I I don't become you. That sounds kind of weird. I don't become you, but I make space for this new to come. And I hold the vision to the highest regard, and I defend it with everything that I have. And I make sure that this alignment journey and this death and rebirth process, that's what it is essentially. I make sure that that the ball is not dropped. So if you feel or have discerned that I am the strategist for you, I'll link the application down below. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.